What's that?
Oh my god, yeah, you should totally.
That's a much better idea. I like that. Excellent. So I'm going to introduce myself first because everybody knows who they are. My name is JP Yates. I see at least one. How many people have seen me either this year or in the previous year? Oh my gosh, you came again for them. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. For those of you that don't know me, I am an international education person. I started out with Disney many, many years ago, recruiting those poor kids in the polyester costumes at Epcot. If I can convince them of that, I can definitely convince them to Japan. But that's my focus. Is I always really want people to go to Japan, whether it be to visit, to study abroad, to get your whole degree, or to live and work. So that's kind of my goal today. Rachel.
My name is Rachel. I'm a YouTuber on YouTube. Sorry, we came from Japan. My brain capacity is like 1/4. Yeah, 1/4 what it usually is, which is not very high. Forgive me for what I say. Half of it's going to be wrong. But yeah, so I'm a YouTuber with my husband June, who's on his way. He's and like Photoshop. That's what I'm saying. I'm bringing a cardboard cutout.
Excellent. So we believe that there were supposed to be online questions that were submitted. Did anybody submit an online question? Okay, you didn't get to this. We apologize. So it's going to be, it may be a little Wild West. Are there small children in the room? Are there, so let me rephrase that. Are there chronological small children? Okay, is there anyone under 13? Raise your hand. In the back, way in the back. Okay. So there is someone under 13, so let's try to keep it somewhat Goonies level. You know, we're not gonna go Disney G movie, but let's try to keep it Goonies level of appropriateness. So we're gonna do this as a true Wild West Reddit style Ask Us Anything.
How crazy.
I know, right?
What are you expecting? It's really nice to us. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This is actually our convention. This is the only one you guys go to.
Yeah, this is the only one I've been to.
Yeah, we're Animazement exclusives. We're both really, really appreciative of the opportunity and absolutely love being here. So who wants to go first? Excellent. Hi. So, I'm just going to repeat that so that everybody can hear it. She's asking, other than the traditional English teaching, ALT kind of jobs, what other job opportunities are there for an American or any other foreigner to move to Japan and live and work? And I'm going to go with YouTuber. No.
Yeah, so there are, but I don't know how they get those jobs, which makes my response very unhelpful. All I can tell you is that yes, you can, because I've met a lot of foreigners who do other things. Like I've met foreigners who did car design for like Nissan, I think. I don't know how he got that job, but he designs cars for Nissan. I've met foreigners who came over and they work as like photographers, people who've come over and like, if you can speak Japanese especially, then you can go into the regular Japanese workforce. Although typically they like to recruit out of university, so it's kind of better if you're graduating from a Japanese university. However, if you graduate from a Japanese university, that does not help you get a job in America. So you're kind of like forcing yourself into the workplace in Japan, which kind of limits your future opportunities. Because if you end up not liking it, then I'm sure you can still, no matter what, you'll be able to find a job anywhere. It'll make it a little bit more difficult. So.
I'll expand on that a little bit. Who's heard of the Japanese language proficiency test? Excellent. So that's the number one thing you have to have. You can say on your resume, I studied Japanese for 8 years. Everybody goes, so well. They care what your JLPT level is. JLPT level. Hey! Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm late, man. I'm sorry. Totally forgot to gonna tell me the time to change. Sorry, I'm not here. Thank you so much for coming all the way.
So the JLPT is really what you want. There's 5 levels. Level 1 is Shakespearean Imperial level Japanese that no one speaks. But if you ever have tea with the Emperor, you're set. Level 5 is being able to correctly mispronounce Japanese loanwords like computa, and being able to say kawaii in a high school girl's voice. What you really want is level 2. That's business level Japanese. It's a bit over 1,000 kanji. It's all the most common grammar constructions. So that's number 1. The recruitment's actually getting a little bit easier in the last year and a half, last 2 years.
There's still seating over there.
Yep, absolutely. Still chairs over on this side.
Everyone.
So everybody knows that the Japanese population pyramid is upside down. Right? There's this many old people, this many young people. For the last 3 years, they sold more adult diapers in Japan than baby diapers. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not. So they are recruiting more openly for us. There's actually a bilingual career fair, just like Rachel was saying, but it's out of university. Here in the States, it's in New York in the fall. It's also in Busan in South Korea, and then they'll also have ones in Tokyo and Osaka. If anybody wants information on that, you can find me on the Disco wall. And I have all that information because they email me about every week and a half about my university's graduates and how many of them are bilingual and can we hire them. So those jobs do exist. Excellent.
I'm interested in actually going over to community teaching, but after that, depending on how much I like Japan and want to stay there for a while, how possible is it to become either actually an actual high school English teacher or like a college professor thing? Like, do I need like a master's degree or do I have to like a bachelor's degree or?
First, before we answer that question, can you raise your hand if you have like open seats next to you? There's still people coming. There's plenty of open seats all around if you guys want to find a seat. So, all right, thank you.
Sorry. They're education questions, so I'm so happy I get to talk. So I went over as a Eikaiwa teacher, as just a human conversation partner as a theater major, but it doesn't matter what your major is for that. It can be underwater sumerian basket weaving. And that's the main requirement, is that you be a native English speaker and you have a degree. Now to be an actual high school teacher, not an ALT, the primary teacher, or to be a college professor, you do usually have to have at least a master's. If your teacher wants to be specifically teaching English, it needs to be in teaching English to speakers of other languages in TESOL. The thing to be concerned with, though, or not concerned with, I should say, be aware of is a better way to say it, is that most Japanese universities will not hire foreign professors at the tenure track where you actually get to stay on tenure forever. There are exceptions. There's Kansai Gaidai does, Asia Pacific University does, Temple University Japan campus does because they're not Japanese. They're American in Japan. So there are those, but you do have to have at least that master's level of education for that. I'll let you pick. Yes, sir. In the red shirt.
As the YouTubers, for one, knowing that there are a couple of other ones throughout Japan, does that kind of, in a way, make you feel a little easier as there is other people doing it around? Because they always say that starting off, it is a little bit to get used to, seeing that you see you have to be on that anywhere. So does that kind of like help you, and is it kind of encouraging?
Okay, so I can answer first then. I would say yes, absolutely. Not only because there aren't enough YouTubers to make it like super normal to be filming your face in public, but there are enough tourists to where people don't really know what you're doing. So if you have a camera, it's just kind of, everyone has a camera, so that's okay. But once you get into YouTube as like a career sort of thing, then knowing that there are a lot of other people is really good because you can network through them, and a lot of times, for example, if they get some sort of job offer that they can't do, then they'll recommend you. So a lot of job offers, sponsorships, like just all kinds of offers in general. Like recently I came out with a jewelry line, and that was because I had another YouTuber friend who did it first and she recommended me. So a lot of what you do is word of mouth. So the more friends you have, like the larger your network, the better things are going to be for you. And I don't think that's like a YouTube thing only, that's just in general in life. So I would always say just network as much as you can for whatever, because you'll always find opportunities you never would have gotten otherwise.
Did she answer your question?
How can I not call in Bill?
What's the hardest thing about learning a foreign language?
When I do, I'll let you know. No, I actually, my job, I was specifically told I wasn't allowed to learn Japanese because they were afraid another university would poach me. For those of you that know, I used to be the head of admissions for Temple University in Japan campus. I was the first international head of admissions. So all of my Japanese is train station, convenience store, everything. Everyone wants to practice English with you. Fine. I would have other parents send their kids to my house because, you know, Thomas Kuhn and Sarah John's dad speaks English. So free English lesson. They actually speak.
What's the hardest thing for you learning English?
First of all, it was pronunciation for me. Because, you know, I used to have a foreign accent, you know, strong Japanese accent, and I can't really speak like this at all, and a lot of people didn't understand what I was saying at all, which is really difficult. But I practiced and practiced and kept learning, and I got better. But at some point, I hit the point where I can't really see improvements anymore, and it stays like that for a little while. So this time of period was the first time for me. Did I answer your question? Okay.
I would say there are a lot of different hard parts of learning Japanese. One is you kind of need to be around native speakers. It's very difficult to learn Japanese if you're not actually using the language and like hearing it used around you. So if you're studying abroad, like, well, I say abroad, but if you're studying here in America, then I think it's a lot more difficult to pick it up as quickly than as if you were studying in Japan. Also with Japanese, there's so much memorization. So if you are studying Japanese right now in classes at school, I would say 90% of your time should be spent studying it on your own at home, because you will not learn from classes alone. That's basically what I did. Was I just studied for my classes, and then by the time I actually went to Japan, I really couldn't say anything at all. So most of a language learning you need to do on your own. So you have to be really motivated and put in the time yourself. It takes a long time to memorize the kanji, memorize vocabulary and everything. And then third, with Japanese specifically, and I'm sure this is true with a lot of languages, but you can get to the point where you know equivalent vocabulary, so you can translate what you want to say in English into Japanese, but that may not be how they actually speak in Japanese. So what you say in English may not be something they would say in Japanese. So a very simple example would be, for example, I love you. They just don't say that in Japanese. So you can translate it, but it's going to be confusing to them. So even though they understand the words, it's just not the context that they would say that in. And this is especially true when you get into like business situations or friendships, when you need to like learn how to speak kind of like indirectly about things. Like if you don't know how you're supposed to speak in Japanese, then you'll end up just kind of like saying a lot of things that people will be taken aback by briefly. But I would say don't worry about making mistakes, because everyone knows you're like a foreigner. They're expecting you to make mistakes, and that's totally okay. So I would say make sure, like, it's more important to just keep practicing and going at it. Even if you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but they did too trying to learn English, so everyone understands that.
And this is the